Subai Kaogong has landed. Double first in written exam and interview. As long as the public notice period ends and the review is passed, he can serve the country's rice bowl. But during the public announcement, he was suddenly reported that his grandfather had been in prison before. Su Bai was shocked. I haven't heard my old man mention this. Just when Su Bai thought it was certain that he would not pass the review and could not land this time, the staff in charge of the review told him that the review was approved. His grandfather did indeed go to jail before, but that was before the founding of the People's Republic of China, and the charges were against the Communist Party. Reviewer. There are stains on your file, red and black. Grandpa Su Bai. Open server players, record can be checked, black talk. Su Bai said, there's no way, I'll make up my destiny. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Exam editor reported Grandpa has been in prison. You are listening at novel full.audio. Su Bai has landed. Under the constant urging of his old man, Su Bai finally passed the organization exam. Ranked first in both written and interview exams and landed at the Huaxia Theater. When receiving the public notice, Su Bai is sending a congratulatory message to the old man. Grandpa, I'm ashore. Huaxia Theater. This time, I can be considered as having a family meal and fulfilling your old wish, right? Su Bai sat in front of the computer, lamenting that these past few months have not been easy. Just crossing over, I have to prepare for the exam. This parallel world, even Su Bai has not yet understood it clearly. The application for the test has been widely accepted by many people. Now that I'm ashore, I can finally clean my ears. He waited for the old man's reply. While scrolling through Weibo, I wanted to see other information about this year's preparation exam. As a result, it was discovered that the establishment exam of Huaxia Theater had actually become a hot topic. While Su Bai was somewhat surprised, she was also puzzled. The Huaxia Theater sounds impressive. But in reality, it is a business unit, an enterprise. Most of the actors in the theater are not choreographed. If you want to prepare, you must take an exam. And the organization is not a formal organization. It's different from civil servants and civil servants. It's like a unit contract. But this exam is quite formal. Because the leaders of Huaxia Theater had a sudden idea, I don't want to engage in social recruitment and insist on learning the same skills as taking the civil service exam. Conduct written test, interview, public announcement and review. Anyway, it's quite complicated. The old man doesn't understand, just deceive him. Furthermore, in the early stages of the establishment of the theater, old drama actors were assigned to the theater. They have a lifetime contract due to historical legacy issues. But for the new drama actors who come later, they will be banned and must take the exam. This is a rule. Su Bai took a rough look. I understand why the staffing exam for this Shimizu unit has become a hot topic. Originally, it was top-notch fresh meat, and Yi Qianxi also applied for this unit. Moreover, he also passed the exam. However, in the public announcement, he was ranked behind Su Bai. That is to say, Yi Qianxi is second. No wonder an ordinary unit's exam can be hot searched. It turns out that it's just taking advantage of others' top traffic. Su Bai couldn't help but sigh. This is the energy of fresh meat nowadays. Just take a general exam and you can get on a hot search. Ding dong, at this moment, Su Bai's phone suddenly rang. Su Bai picked it up and saw the authority sent by his grandfather. Stinky kid. With so many units, why are you taking the exam for this theater? Didn't I tell you to take the exam for customs and taxation? What's the use of getting into a theater? At your level, can you perform on stage? If you don't perform, why do they pay you a salary? Watching my old man's output. Su Bai wants to cry without tears. The grandfather of this world is good at everything, but he is very persistent in eating national food. But the old man's ideals are full, but the reality is cruel. Doesn't Subai know that tax and customs are good units? That also requires him to be professionally matched. The Subai of this world graduated from the directing major of the Drama Academy. Can someone ask him for this major in taxation? Can filming bring tax evaders to justice? The old man is purely disrespectful of objective facts. Subai helplessly replied, "Grandpa, I majored in acting and directing. If I don't take the theater exam, what should I take? Besides, I didn't want to take the exam either. I want to directly apply for a resume to enter the entertainment industry. It's you who insisted on morally kidnapping me, saying that you won't take the civil service exam and you won't die in peace. That's why I reluctantly chose someone who can take the exam. I am the top scorer in both written and interview exams. Do you know the value of this? I am a reliable talent. Where can I not shine?" A rural courtyard on the outskirts of Beijing. A skinny old man was holding his phone at the moment. After reading what Subai sent over, I couldn't help but laugh and curse. This stinky kid. Take a test and show him how to beat it. After cursing, the old man's smile couldn't be suppressed. With his grandson's establishment, he can be considered at ease. My grandson has a bad fate. My parents left early and were raised by themselves. The old man is afraid that he will leave in 2 years, and his grandson's life will not be guaranteed. Now that he can hold on to an iron rice bowl, he can finally rest assured. Because of the old man's special life experience, in his heart, he always believed in the country. I also believe that only the country's job is the most secure. Feeling relieved, the old man squinted his eyes and started writing on his phone. Stinky kid. Don't be so naughty. Come back for dinner on the weekend. Subai saw a message from her grandfather in the rental house. I can't help but smile. This old man, with a hard mouth and a soft heart, is an interesting stubborn old man. Turning off her phone, Subai continued to stare at the computer. I want to continue reading hot news and better understand the world. In the 2 months before preparing for the exam, Subai roughly understood that this world was very similar to the one he used to be in. However, literary works, film and television works, etc., are very different. Many famous works from the original world, it has never appeared in this world. Entertainment stars, there are also some differences. At that time, Subai felt that, he has a high chance of success in this world. After all, there are too many excellent literary and artistic works in the original world. He is also studying related majors. Even if we copy it, it can still cause a big fire. Unfortunately, the old man demanded that he must pass the civil service exam. Subai could only suppress her excitement and focus on reviewing for the exam. Now that his goal has been achieved, he can finally start his next plan. What is the best choice for the first work after entering the theater? Subai began to silently filter in her heart. Fingers also unconsciously browsed through the hot search square. Suddenly, he noticed a Weibo post with high likes and reviews. But the content stunned Subai. I am a fan of Yi Qianqi. As we all know, our family's Qianqi has passed the exam at the Huaxia Theater and is about to become a well-established man. As a fan, I am sincerely happy for my idol. A good idol should set a good example for fans, just like our family's millennium. With excellent and solid professional skills, accept the test of national units. I'm glad that Millennium has achieved it. He passed the recruitment exam for Huaxia Theater with excellent written test interview results. The recruitment process is currently in the public announcement stage. As a fan, I only needed to pay attention to Millennium and feel happy for it. But in this public list, I found that some people do not meet the recruitment criteria at all. By this point, Subai's interest had been fiercely aroused. Although I haven't even figured out the nature of Huaxia Theater to my fans, just call it a national unit, Su Bai really wants to laugh. But this is a top-tier fan of fresh meat. Everyone knows how amazing their combat power is online. If someone is bitten by brain powder, they won't even be able to peel off their skin. This time it's even more exciting. Surprisingly, he is a top-tier fan and discovered that the public announcement personnel do not meet the employment requirements. We have now reached the stage of public announcement. According to the program, the next step is to review the background. One of the functions of publicity is to solicit opinions and feedback. Commonly known as reporting. That is to say, who sees the public list and understands the people being publicized. When it becomes known that he does not meet the conditions for employment, you can report to relevant units. The meaning of the fan's words is very obvious. It's just saying that someone's review may not pass. Su Bai couldn't help but sigh, who the hell is this? How could it have offended top-tier fans? Whether it's really a problem or not, this matter will definitely attract the attention of fishing vessels. You can't even keep a low profile. Su Bai smiled and looked down. Then I couldn't laugh anymore. Because he saw his name clearly. What I want to report is Su Bai, who ranked first in this written test interview. He doesn't meet the hiring criteria. Because his grandfather has been in prison. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 2. Things Fermented. You are listening at novel full.audio. My grandfather has been in prison before. When Su Bai saw this passage, people were all dumbfounded. Is this really fake? The old man has been in prison before, why didn't he tell him? Su Bai is the grandson of the old man. It doesn't make sense. The old man has been in prison before, but he still hides it from his own grandson, right? After thinking about it, Su Bai felt that it was also possible. After all, going to jail is not honorable. The elderly hide from their grandchildren for the sake of face, which is understandable. But his old man is urging him to take the civil service exam. Almost threatened by fate. If the old man had really been imprisoned, he would have let Su Bai take the civil service exam. That's really a bit of a scam. Within 3 generations, immediate family members have been imprisoned. Don't even think about becoming a soldier or taking the civil service exam. It has nothing to do with you. The old man is so eager for Su Bai to eat national food. You don't even know this rule, do you? Although the Huaxia theater is not formally established. But after studying the formal process of taking the civil service examination, I also learned how to accept supervision and conduct background checks. Su Bai carefully recalled his grandfather's daily life. Then he shook his head. Impossible. The old man holds a magnifying glass every day, studying the civil service examination policies on his phone. Not to mention being proficient, at least one can recite rolling melon proficiently. How could he not know this rule? After recalling all the details, Su Bai. I firmly believe that his old man must have never been imprisoned. Otherwise, he wouldn't be foolish enough to insist on taking the civil service exam. This meager fresh meat fan is probably spreading rumors. This method is also familiar to Su Bai. He is also in the entertainment industry in the original world. Know the level of crazy criticism from mentally disabled fans. Spreading rumors and the like are all basic operations. Every year, there are netizens who are sued by celebrities for spreading rumors. The result of processing, usually, it means paying tens of thousands of yuan and publicly apologizing. The consequences are not serious. Sometimes young fans are exempt from punishment. But even if punished, there are few people who pay attention to it. After all, people like to chase after hot topics and eat melons. Few people are willing to see clarification. As the saying goes, if you spread a rumor, open your mouth and refute it. Su Bai felt that this fan who reported him, this is also the case. Just Su Bai doesn't quite understand why she chose him. He has no conflict of interest with Yi Qianxi. Those on the public list will be hired if nothing unexpected happens. That is to say, both he and Yi Qianxi will have positions. I will still be a colleague in the future. What do you think? Fans don't even need to spread rumors. Su Bai, who couldn't figure it out, began to delve into the comments of her fans. I was fooled by the comments of some brainless fans. Pure passers-by. I want to ask the blogger, do you have any evidence to report someone as the first person? What I saw on the hot search square, wait for evidence. If this Su Bai grandfather really went to jail, he really doesn't meet the hiring criteria. Did the blogger say there's no evidence left? Some people, don't get too excited. You're just a passerby, you're a passerby's asshole. Since the blogger dares to post it, it means she must have evidence. 1,000 cranes are all good babies and won't spread rumors casually. We follow the main blogger as fans, exactly. Some people don't hate us too much for millennials. Publicity is questionable. If Su Bai's grandfather is okay, what is he afraid of? Evidence. What evidence is needed? As long as I feel that the person being publicized has a problem, I can question the report. The rest should be investigated by the personnel of Huaxia Theater. That's right. Not all reports have evidence. Perhaps the blogger has heard that Su Bai's grandfather has been imprisoned, so it's normal to raise questions about the fairness of the theater's personnel recruitment. There are many similar comments. Su Bai flipped through it for more than 10 minutes. These comments can be roughly divided into several categories. One type is netizens who ask bloggers to provide evidence and only speak based on facts. Another type is to eat melons and watch movies without standing in line, waiting for the final result. Another type is fans who are eager to protect the owner. The explosion of speech, the thief of logic, the Su Bai you saw was breathtaking. The general meaning is, can't I report it if there's no problem? Perhaps he has a problem. I report it for the sake of others. Even if Su Bai's grandfather has never been to prison, perhaps his father has been in prison and his mother has. Reporting is to make the staff's work more meticulous. Don't let go of a bad person. As for whether the good people were wronged or not, it's not their business. Besides, wronging someone, can one be wronged to death? If Su Bai is really okay, it can also be considered as an indirect way to clear his name. In the original world, Su Bai has seen many similar cyberbullying incidents. At that time, I thought it was unbelievable. I can't understand the brain circuits of brain-disabled fans. It's my turn this time. Besides anger, he also has a deep sense of absurdity. Just when Su Bai was not prepared to pay attention, he only thought it was a farce. This posted a Weibo post questioning his fans. Surprisingly, another thin article was posted, throwing out a bunch of pictures. Su Bai nodded in and frowned. The content of the picture is nothing else, all his exam results from 4 years of college. The transcript shows that Su Bai's grades are very poor on a regular basis. Basically located downstream of the class. Most subjects have just passed. As a student majoring in art, being able to read the grades like this only indicates one problem. Su Bai is a pure academic scumbag. Such a scumbag, when taking the civil service exam, surprisingly, I won both the written test and interview first place. This is very suspicious. These transcripts are thrown out. The network trend that was originally biased towards neutrality immediately changed. There are hardly any passers-by speaking to Su Bai on the square. Most people are questioning Su Bai's performance. Is it possible to achieve double first place in the written test and interview? Since the appearance of the transcript, Su Bai has realized that the problem is not simple. If it's just fans spreading rumors, indeed, it cannot be ignored. After all, Su Bai is not a public figure, and people will forget about it after a while. But being able to obtain Su Bai's transcript, I also took pictures and released them, that means this person came for a purpose. Who is going to mess with themselves? Su Bai searched in her mind for a long time. I didn't find any suspicious targets. At this moment, he suddenly realized that 2 entries had secretly made it to the hot search. Hashtag suspected that the first direct relative in the Huaxia theater exam has been imprisoned. Hashtag how hardworking Yi Qianxi is for exams. Hashtag the first entry, Su Bai is too lazy to click on it. You don't have to think about it, because of Yi Qianxi's terrifying traffic. The low following rate posted by fans is too high, indirectly put Su Bai on the hot search. Everything is moving towards a trend of getting bigger and bigger. He directly clicked on the second hot search. As a result, it was discovered that the popular content was posted on Weibo by Yi Qianxi Studio. Refined 9 palace grid images, it's all Yi Qianxi reading books and practicing exercises. Airport, set, concert backstage, as long as it's a place where you can find time to read and practice, Yi Qianxi is all practicing and endorsing questions. And it was truthfully photographed and recorded by the staff. Every picture, Yi Qianxi's posture and image can be considered perfect. The meager text is somewhat thought-provoking. Every moment of effort should not be let down. Tisk tisk tsk. Who is this special connotation? Su Bai was speechless. Are you trying hard, but don't you allow others to work hard too? Su Bai has already regained its flavor at this moment. It is estimated that the person who is causing trouble to oneself is not someone else, this is the team of top-notch fresh meat. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 3. Evidence of Grandpa Su Bai's imprisonment has been found. You are listening at novel full.audio. Su Bai also roughly understood why she was targeted. It's probably because of him being the top scorer in the written exam and interview. As the top idol of Yi Qianxi, smooth career and numerous fans. It has become the leader of the new generation of idols. But he deviated from the right path with his sword. At the best of my career, I chose to take the civil service exam. Many people probably didn't expect this move. I have to say, this decision is very correct. It will allow him to gain fan traffic. There is still one unit to be affiliated with. That is to say, the high-quality idols that fans boast about every day and are endorsed by the country. But in reality, the country will not endorse any idols. Even if you have a lot of traffic and a good image now, it doesn't mean you won't make mistakes in the future. Idols who have made mistakes, even if they have been praised by the authorities before, should I be banned or will I be banned? But Yi Qianxi's team and fans, obviously confused by the current blossoming of flowers. I want Yi Qianxi to be able to, it can still be amazing. There's nothing more gimmicky than being the top scorer. But this first place was taken over by Su Bai. Since that's the case, then get rid of Su Bai. Isn't Yi Qianxi the number one? Having figured out the key to Su Bai, it's absurd to think about the operation of celebrity teams. But often absurd things, in the entertainment industry, it's actually a fact. The top male team, for the honor of first place, be a mediocre candidate. On the side of female celebrities, they can talk to each other for resources. That's the level of excitement. It takes hundreds of pages to make a PPT. Sometimes in the entertainment industry, the more fake the disclosure, the more true it is. The increasingly untenable reasons for tearing and forcing are often true. Just Su Bai is very innocent. Becoming a top-tier fresh meat powder, it serves as a stepping stone for creating character designs. Just, will Su Bai really be willing to become a stepping stone? Su Bai laughed heartily. It's a bit low-end to use this method to suppress me. Ordinary college graduates, when faced with such situations, perhaps they will panic and be given a rhythm. It may even be due to a rush to prove oneself, trapped in certain traps. For example, publicly accepting interviews without organizational permission. make some untrustworthy comments about the unit. So, even if the truth is found out, but I will also consider the impact and be cautious when hiring. Don't underestimate college students who are all alone and brave. They sometimes, really, for the sake of innocence, do something that flies like moths to the fire and harms both. These small details are the easiest to tread on. For Su Bai, a veteran of the entertainment industry, this matter is actually easy to solve. As long as he takes out his grandfather's file information, he can prove his innocence. It's just that the old man seems to have never had a job. I haven't seen him receive a pension either. I don't know where his files are located. In theory, it should be in the capital. Because Su Bai has been living with her grandfather in the rural areas of the suburbs of Beijing since she was young. Grandpa's file, probably kept in the village committee. Su Bai decided to go back to the suburbs this afternoon. Ask the old man clearly about this matter. Just got on the bus back to the village. Su Bai is trending again. This time, the person who reported Su Bai, provided evidence of Grandpa Su Bai's imprisonment. Directly ignited a weak public opinion. The top few in the hot search have all turned into Su Bai. Netizens towards him, also transformed from the title of first place in the Huaxia Theater examination, to Su Bai. It can be said that it is a real name online riot. Sitting on the bus, Su Bai shook her head helplessly. He opened the WeChat account posted by the informant. There is indeed a file image inside with his grandfather's name written on it. Su Bai's grandfather, named Su Huaisher. Born in 1929, he is now in his 90s. Su Bai saw a photo of her grandfather when he was young in this picture. Although Su Bai has never seen his grandfather's appearance when he was young. But the eyebrows and eyes in this photo are too familiar to him. The appearance of the Su family with thick eyebrows and big eyes is consistent. Su Bai also has this kind of upright and handsome appearance. So, Su Bai believes that this archive image should not be fake. What just made him feel strange was that, the archive paper in this picture is clearly a photocopy. Even the photos are photocopies, very blurry. Below is a column of my personal experiences. It reads, Su Huaisher served his sentence in Songsher prison in May 19XX. Just because it's a photocopy, many handwriting is unclear. Especially the year cannot be seen clearly. Even the wording of serving a sentence can only be barely recognizable. But it cannot be denied that, this picture really proves that Su Bai's grandfather has been imprisoned. What the informant said is correct. Sitting on the bus, Su Bai looked out the window. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Hey, this old man is really playing tricks on his grandson. He even sent me to take the civil service exam after being imprisoned. Now, the family secret has been exposed. Fortunately, I don't really care about this establishment either. If I don't pass the exam, the old man won't blame me either. You can also stop thinking. Su Bai actually has a good idea. Decided to go back later. I won't mention this to the old man anymore. Lest the old man be in his 90s and feel ashamed and flustered. After all, going to jail is not a glorious thing. Although Su Bai can think of it, but netizens, to be precise, fans of Yi Qianxi will not easily let him go. Since we have found evidence, it's not painful to hit the water dog, snatch back the first place honor for their brother. How can they be considered qualified fans? For a while, there were verbal and written criticisms of Su Bai online. A super scumbag in an art major who won both the written and interview exams. Who would believe that? Probably the first one. There's a lot of moisture. I think there's some cat tricks in here. His grandfather really did go to jail. His 3 generations of direct relatives have criminal records, and the investigation cannot pass. He knew he couldn't pass, but when he applied, he kept it hidden. Who gave him confidence? It's not impossible. This kind of thing can also work. It depends on whether you have the ability. Su Huaisher, this name is very scholarly and may be a capitalist. He used to run abroad, but later came back to raise money. Hey. I almost thought Subai was a small-town Swot, but he was a capitalist. What is a small-town Swot? Just a bookworm who only knows how to solve problems, buries his head in reading, and tries to break his head in order to prepare for exams. This kind of person is just someone who can take exams, really makes them do things, each with high expectations but low skills. Ha ha ha. The small-town Swot. It's a good name. Fortunately, our family's Millennium is not. Millennium is a real bully, and he was admitted to the organization in one exam. Watching the top-tier fans speak more and more outrageously, even began to attack Subai's life. Even the other candidates in the formula were implicated. Was satirized as a small-town Swot. Subai couldn't help but frown. At this moment, the bus has arrived at the station. Subai can only tidy up her mood first, bring the high-calcium milk powder bought for the old man and walk towards the village. Just when we were almost home, Subai discovered that on the narrow path at her doorstep, surprisingly, several cars have parked. Subai walked in and saw that there were actually 2 cars with military plaques hanging on them. And the door of my own small courtyard is open. There seems to be a lot of people talking inside, making a lot of noise. Subai didn't know why, so she pushed open the door and walked in. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 4. Does Laozi's imprisonment still affect his grandson's political review? You are listening at novel full.audio. As soon as Subai entered the door, she found 7 or 8 people standing in the spacious living room. There is a middle-aged man who looks extremely dignified. That way, it looks like a leader. There are 2 more people wearing military uniforms. Subai also doesn't have a high military rank. I don't know what level these 2 soldiers are in front of me. However, everyone in the room, except for his grandfather. Surprisingly, everyone is standing and talking. The old man sat upright on the wicker chair, without any intention of standing up. The atmosphere inside the room suddenly became cold due to the appearance of Subai. The old man saw Subai come back with a smile on his face. Slowly stand up. Stinky kid, why did you come back today? Didn't they say they came back for dinner on the weekend? Subai placed the milk powder in her hand on the table. Helping the old man sit down again, I said, Grandpa, I'm fine again. If I want to come back, I'll come back. A middle-aged man standing in the room heard Subai call the old man Grandpa. Immediately raise an eyebrow and show a smile. Are you Comrade Xiao Su? Said Subai politely. Subai was unclear and could only nod with a smile. The person continued with a smile, Comrade Subai, I am the director of the Huaxia Theater, Tianji. These are all staff members of our theater. Today is mainly for home visits. Upon hearing this, Subai was somewhat shocked. Home visits. He hasn't even been officially hired yet. What kind of home visit is he doing? Is this program obviously wrong? After thinking for a moment, Subai's heart sank. Shouldn't it be the fact that my old man has been imprisoned, has been fermenting online and has had a significant impact? So, did the leaders of the theater come to visit? Just, what is the purpose of visiting? Looking for evidence or asking for punishment? Subai couldn't help but be vigilant. If he comes to provoke criticism, he will have to stop him. The old man is in his 90s, and if these people speak too harshly, a careless Subai is afraid that the old man will pull him over. Subai probed and said, Dean Tian, it seems that I haven't received any notification about your home visit. Tianji still had a warm smile on his face. No one can pick out a single mistake. Comrade Subai, the matter of home visits is quite sudden, and we haven't had a chance to notify yet. But you're back just in time, we can just make everything clear. Upon hearing this, Subai couldn't help but look at her old man. Seeing that the old man's mental state is good, it's not like being poked and imprisoned. He asked, "Grandpa, what did they say?" The old man said directly, "They just came in and said hello, but haven't had a chance to speak yet." "Didn't you just come back?" "My body is not strong enough, Su Bai. Go make tea for the leaders." The old man instructed Su Bai to follow suit naturally. However, Dean Tian's face changed. Immediately instructed a little girl beside him, "Xiao Lu, go help comrade Su Bai. With so many of us, we were already bothering. It's not appropriate to keep comrade Su Bai busy." Xiao Lu let out a sigh and followed Su Bai to the back kitchen to brew tea. The old man also politely invited everyone to take their seats. In the kitchen behind, Su Bai looked at Xiao Lu. "I found that this girl is very young, so I guess she just got into the theater." He asked, "Chief Lu, why did you suddenly visit my home? Are other candidates doing the same?" Xiao Lu deftly placed tea leaves in the cup. Upon hearing Su Bai's question, he quickly said, "Su Bai, I'm not a department head, I'm just a small employee. Just call me Xiao Lu. In the future, we will also be colleagues. I am a member of the recruitment review team. In the afternoon, I suddenly received a notice from Dean Tian to come to your house with him. I'm not sure exactly what this home visit is for." Su Bai nodded and understood. This little Lu is a staff member who handles affairs, she is not clear about the specific matter. The two of them brewed tea and served it by Su Bai. At this moment, I heard the old man boasting about his grandson. "My grandson has been very smart since childhood. The academic performance has always been among the top. I just had a wild mind and insisted on studying art, which is why I got into the drama academy. Our Su Bai family, if we don't pursue the path of art, we can still pass the entrance exam in Qingbei." Dean Tian listened to the old man's boasting and sincerely nodded and smiled in apology. Only Su Bai blushed. The old man really dares to boast. He didn't know that his grandson's college transcripts were all posted online. The whole country knows that Su Bai is a scumbag. Su Bai estimated that Dean Tian must have also seen the relevant materials. But he deserves to be a leader. His expression remained unchanged. She nodded in agreement with the old man's boasting, giving her a lot of face. Su Bai's gaze turned to the two military uniforms that had remained silent. "I haven't heard them introduce themselves. I don't know about theater visits, what are you bringing two soldiers over for?" These two people sat upright, but their gaze never left Su Huaisha. Even in their eyes, Su Bai, I also saw a hint of admiration. This further confused Su Bai. "My own old man is just an ordinary little old man, what place is worth worshipping by soldiers?" At this moment, Dean Tian said, "Master, our main purpose this time is to understand the specific situation." Su Bai has always been vigilant. Upon hearing Tian Ji say this, I thought he was going to talk about the old man's past imprisonment. "Dean Tian, you actually came just in time," interrupted the speaker, "lest I go to the theater again. I want to give up this opportunity and report to you here first." "Pa-da-da." Upon hearing this, Su Huaisha placed the tea cup heavily on the table. Looking at Su Bai angrily, he said, "You stinky kid, what nonsense are you talking about? Their leaders have all come to visit their homes, you said you're not doing it anymore. You've all passed the exam, why don't you go?" Su Bai was helpless and could only say, "Grandpa, didn't you say you wanted me to take the tax and customs examination?" "I thought for a moment, you're right. So I won't go to the Huaxia Theater. I will prepare for another year and apply to another unit next year." Su Huaisha's smile had long disappeared. Stare at Su Bai. Angered, "You bastard. What I said is just a joke. Your major doesn't match, you don't want to take the exam. Now that you have finally passed the exam, do you still want to give up? I think you deserve to be beaten." The guest left soon. "Look at me, I won't beat you." Subai couldn't help but cry and laugh. The old man can scare people, but if he really wants to fight, he can't bear to take action. But Subai couldn't speak up about the old man's imprisonment either. He can only persist, he will give up the opportunity. This can make Su Huaisher very angry. Breathing heavily, my face trembling with deep grooves. Subai is also helpless. Just be angry. After a while, it will be better. It's better to expose my grandfather's scar to others. Seeing the father and grandson arguing endlessly, Tianji on the side finally couldn't help it anymore. Looking at Subai, he said, "Comrade Subai, do you want to give up the opportunity because of something online?" Subai gave a glance to Tianji. The meaning is to make him stop talking. Su Huaisher's eyes were like eagles. I immediately saw their little movements. He snorted coldly and said, "What's going on online? Are you keeping something from me?" Tianji ignored Subai's suggestion. But with a slight apology, he said, "Old man, I'm sorry. Netizens online don't know where they found your profile. It shows that you've been to jail before. Subai may feel that this will affect his review. That's why I want to give up this opportunity." Upon hearing this, Su Huaisher was taken aback for a moment. Then he suddenly stood up. The voice was somewhat angry and said, "Have I ever been in prison before? Does it still affect my grandson's exam? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 5. The prison I was in and the prison others were in, Can 1. You are listening at novel full.audio. I have been in prison before, but it still affects my grandson's exams. Upon hearing her grandfather's words, Subai almost took a sip of tea and sprayed it out. My dear grandfather. What are you talking about? You are a person who has made mistakes, how can you still be righteous? Subai quickly pulled on Su Huaisher's sleeve. Grandpa. Within 3 generations of direct relatives, those who have been imprisoned. Descendants are not allowed to take the civil service exam. Didn't you study policies every day? Have you forgotten? Although Subai is not a civil servant, but who made the Huaxia theater unit more formal? Who knew that being pulled by Subai, the old man was still very angry. Staring, he said, "Of course I haven't forgotten about this. But can it be the same thing if I go to jail and go to jail with others? How dare I miss my grandson's exam because of this?" Su Huaisher said and looked at Tianji sitting beside him. Tianji was already sitting on the sofa with only half of his butt. Suddenly meeting Su Huaisher's gaze, he trembled all over. I couldn't help but hit a cold cicada. Su Huaisher's eyes were too sharp. An elderly person in his 90s, however, has no cloudiness in his eyes. Like an eagle, staring closely at Tianji. Tianji has a feeling of being targeted by a fierce beast. My forehead couldn't help but sweat. Su Huaisher stared at Tianji Dao and said, "Dean Tian, are you here today to inform me, this old guy? My grandson, due to my past experiences, cannot be accepted by you, can he?" Although Su Huaisher's words were not offensive. But the meaning of questioning is too obvious. Subai is so dumbfounded. I almost wanted to knock on my old man. This is a human life of 99%. Dare to challenge the Prince of Yen. Tianji is also the leader of the theater. Let's go to the theater, the actors inside are all big shots. The popularity is quite high. My old man is just a common person. How dare you question the leader? Subai was afraid that if the old man said a few more words, the situation would become uncontrollable. Hurry up and say, Grandpa. You can't blame the leaders of the theater for this. Someone reported me, not their leaders who discovered it. Upon hearing this, Su Huaisher looked at Subai. Someone reported it. Hee hee. It's just a joke. Who reported it? The people I know are almost dead. Can anyone still know about my imprisonment? Upon hearing Su Huaisher say so, Su Bai is even more unable to laugh or cry. Grandpa. This kind of thing is not something that only people who know can report. Even if the person who knows is no longer there, your file is still there. As Su Bai spoke, she opened her phone, opened the picture of Su Huaisher's archives. Su Huaisher took it over and took a look. Suddenly burst into laughter. Laughing very heartily. Pointing to his own photo in the picture, he said, "Stinky kid. Look, I was very handsome when I was young. I used to tell you that when I was young, little girls liked me. You still don't believe me, do you believe me now?" Su Bai covered her forehead and sighed at the old man's ability to tilt the building. Grandpa. This is about your prison record, how did it get to your appearance? Su Huaisher still smiled heartily. Hand the phone to Su Bai. He said, "What's written on this file is correct. Although a lot of information is unclear. But I can tell at a glance that this is my past file. Just this file, logically speaking, has been destroyed. How can anyone still keep it? Stinky kid, who is the person reporting this? Find it out for me. I need to ask him." Upon hearing this, Su Bai had two big heads. As expected, this should have been done by the Yi Qianxi team. That so-called fan is just a small account. Where can Su Bai find the real person? The internet is like a protective umbrella. Blocked the filthy true faces of many people. Grandpa. I really can't find it. However, if someone can obtain your file information, it indicates that it is related. These days, it's easy for people with connections to get things done. Unexpectedly, when the old man heard this, he strongly disagreed. He shook his head and said, "I have no objection to finding someone else's files through connections. But can my files be the same? This is not a small matter. To put it in the words of your young people, that person is the one who got into trouble, oh." The old man's tone is not small. Just checked your file and got into trouble. Before Su Bai had time to roast, Grandpa started bragging again. Just as he listened, the young officer who had been sitting silently spoke up. "What you said, old man. This matter is very serious and should be thoroughly investigated. Your file, even if it's a copy, should not be seen casually." Su Bai looked at the young officer in surprise. Estimating his age in his 30s, his gaze was very resolute. Seeing Su Bai looking over, the person nodded at Su Bai with a friendly smile. Did Su Bai feel even more puzzled this time? What are the identities of these two soldiers? How do you feel like holding the old man and talking? But now, even the old man himself has admitted it. He has really been in prison. This file is real. There will be no controversy over the matter of Su Bai's organization. He is determined not to pass the review. Su Bai is afraid that the old man will be sad. Due to his own problems, his grandson was unable to be admitted. He comforted Su Huaisher and said, "Grandpa, it's okay. If you can't take the exam, then don't take it. We have to abide by their rules. Besides, I don't really want to take the civil service exam either. With my abilities, where can't I make a fortune? Don't you really enjoy watching war dramas? I'll shoot one for you tomorrow. I guarantee you will feel comfortable watching and enjoy it." Su Huaisher chuckled. The look in Su Bai's eyes was very comforting. Knowing that my grandson is considering his face. Specially choose something nice to say. Still showing indifference toward staffing. But Su Huaisher knew that it was Su Bai who spent his energy getting accepted. How can we not care? Feeling comforted in my heart, I stubbornly said. You can forget it. Nowadays, war movies are all divine dramas, not a single one is good. Even if you become a director, you are not allowed to shoot such things. It's simply a waste of the country's money, poisoning the audience's eyes. Su Bai shrugged and didn't pay much attention. There are indeed no good war dramas in this world. Basically, they are all shoddy hand-torn devils. But in Su Bai's mind, there are too many excellent scripts. Take out any one, in this world, it's a dimensionality reduction blow. So, even without staffing, there is no stable income. Su Bai is not anxious either. There is always a moment when there is something in the stomach that shines. Just when Su Bai thought this matter would come to a satisfactory end, Su Huaisher suddenly looked at Tianji. Slowly said, Dean Tian. Your unit has an obligation to help clarify the matter of Su Bai being reported, right? I cannot say what I have done for the country, because doing anything is within my scope. But because of these things, it affects my grandson's work. This matter needs to be discussed thoroughly. If you don't give me a reasonable explanation, I dare to escalate this lawsuit. Upon hearing this, Su Bai widened her eyes. Do you think the old man is angry and confused? Are you starting to talk nonsense? Are you still going to file a lawsuit up there? We are just ordinary people with flat heads. If there are conflicts, just solve them directly by the village committee. But Dean Tian had already stood up. Wiping sweat off his head, he said, Old man, you're right. You've been in prison before, it doesn't even affect Su Bai's exam. Has anyone seen it? Looking for free flower evaluation tickets. Thank you. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 6. You have suffered for the cause of building a country. You are listening at novel full.audio. Upon hearing Dean Tian's words, Su Bai couldn't help but look at him. My eyes are wide open. What are these words? Bending the law for personal gain. Open the door of convenience openly. Using authority to interfere with the recruitment of unit personnel. No matter which charge, it's enough for Dean Tian to drink a pot. Of course, a theater is not a public institution, but Dean Tian dares to speak so grandly. There are not only people from the theater on site. There are 2 more soldiers, obviously from the military. Is Dean Tian too bold? Su Bai doesn't even know what to say. He couldn't help but look at the 2 soldiers sitting upright. But their gaze was mostly on Su Huaisher. If Dean Tian were so rebellious, it's like turning a deaf ear. Su Bai is a bit confused. This old man from my own family is just a common person with a flat head. And he himself is an ordinary person. What is there worth Tian Dean's favoritism in a family like theirs? Although it is a fact that he felt that his grandfather had been imprisoned, which prevented him from passing the examination. Don't even talk about a business unit that studies the civil service examination standards. Even if the National Theatre follows the same social recruitment process as in the previous 2 years, just about the old man's matter, it is estimated that it will also affect Su Bai. The old man used to make mistakes, but he also went to jail. We have already paid the price. The old Su family does not do anything that breaks the rules. For the sake of organization, we must find connections. But if Dean Tian says this, that would be a real crime. The people of Lao Su's family are definitely not associated with crime. Waiting for Su Huaisher to answer Dean Tian's words, Su Bai said, Dean Tian, you're wrong. My grandfather's imprisonment is a fact, and it is also a fact that I am not qualified to take the civil service exam. How can you reverse right and wrong, saying that my grandfather is in prison, without affecting my civil service exam? The old man is already over 90 years old, but he is not confused. Don't deceive the old man. Upon hearing Su Bai's words, Dean Tian showed a surprised expression on his face. After a moment, I finally understood. I estimate that Su Bai, this young man, knows nothing about his grandfather's past. I really thought his grandfather had been in prison and had a record. Dean Tian showed a meaningful smile, looking at Su Bai. He said, "Comrade Su Bai, you misunderstood. How could I possibly deceive the old man? Even if you give me 10 courage, I dare not. Moreover, our home visit today is mainly to address this reporting issue. Resolve reporting issues." Su Bai was completely confused when she heard it. Unconsciously looking at Su Huaisher. Su Huaisher's face remained calm, the old monk remained calm and looked at Dean Tian, gesturing for him to continue speaking. He also raised his finger to the sofa and asked Dean Tian to sit down. Director Tian nodded with a smile and then half of his but sat back on the sofa. This is because our work was not done well, which made Su Bai feel wronged. Dean Tian said, looking apologetically at Su Bai. Su Bai's thinking has been disrupted. I can only mechanically reply, Dean Tian, you have spoken too seriously. This is a report from netizens, and it has nothing to do with you either. Who knew that? Dean Tian shook his head and said, Su Bai, you're wrong. Although the whistleblower reported it online, they did not provide feedback to our theater. But as employers, we should be vigilant as the situation gradually escalates. Instead of letting this matter develop into an uncontrollable range. Now, Su Bai, you have been subjected to cyberbullying and injustice. This is also because our learning is not up to par. We haven't done this kind of program before, and it's all about social recruitment. Su Bai's heart was speechless upon hearing this. Sai, is this the art of leadership speaking? Did you speak with too much skill? The previous section basically removed the responsibility of the theater. Saying this was reported by netizens, the implication is that they also do not know the true identity of this person. I have no way to start at all. He also said that netizens did not report to the company, which further clarifies the relationship. If the theater staff do not access the internet, they don't even know about this. And he also said that they are just a business unit, not a national unit. In fact, social recruitment is sufficient. But this year I have to learn from others, and it is normal for me to not learn well. This statement is truly insightful. But that alone is not art. Later, Dean Tian added. Even if this matter has nothing to do with them, they must also be at fault. Wrong lies in insufficient ideological awareness and vigilance. I didn't anticipate the power of online public opinion. This is also a work mistake in a sense. Su Bai couldn't help but marvel in her heart. He has also made progress. Although he didn't enter the unit, he could actually understand the words of the leader. Is this a natural talent? Just Su Bai was a bit puzzled. Usually, this kind of artistic conversation, it shouldn't happen to ordinary people like him. Dean Tian seems a bit too approachable, right? Dean Tian, being wronged is not being wronged. The issue of online bullying is indeed a bit troublesome. When I took the bus back in the afternoon, I found that some fans were already picking up my family information. I'm not worried about anything else, I'm just afraid that the old man's place will be dug out by them. The old man is so old that if someone really comes to cause trouble, it will be troublesome. Dean Tian nodded in agreement. He said, this matter really needs to be resolved quickly. Our plan is for our unit to issue an official announcement tonight. Make a special explanation about the old man's imprisonment. Stop the disturbance of public opinion from the outside world, and I will also exonerate you. Innocence. What kind of innocence do you have? Moreover, is this matter worth the unit's announcement? This treatment is too high, isn't it? Su Bai quickly said, Dean Tian, there's no need to be so troublesome. I understand the unit's announcement, so I must make it very clear. Everyone knows that my grandfather's imprisonment will cause trouble by then. Why don't you just follow what I said and send another version of the announcement, just remove my name. No need to say anything, just cold treat it directly. Su Bai thinks this plan is the best. He just needs to withdraw from the competition for benefits. Then there's no need for the other team to mess with him anymore. The dark history of one's own father can also be quickly uncovered. Unexpectedly, Dean Tian shook his head and said, "Comrade Su Bai, why haven't you understood my meaning yet? Our theater has issued an official announcement, which is to give you a name certificate. I want to tell everyone that the old man's imprisonment has no impact on you. You are the top scorer in both written and interview exams, and getting through the exam relies on your true abilities. Even if the old man has never been to this prison, you don't need this to increase the value of your exam." Wait a moment, Su Bai has already heard it a bit confused. Is he foolish, or is Dean Tian foolish? How did he listen to Dean Tian's meaning? Has the old man been in prison and become a bonus for him? Is imprisonment still valuable? Su Bai shook her head. Is this world crazy? At this moment, Su Huaisher, who had been listening for a long time, finally spoke up. Just the tone is quite plain. The informant was not actually wrong. Laozi did indeed go to jail. This is something recorded in the archives. They're not just spreading rumors. As soon as Su Huaisher's words came out, Dean Tian and the two soldiers took a deep breath. I understand that the old man is still angry. This matter won't pass so easily. Dean Tian stood up again and said, "Old man, isn't what you're saying hitting us in the face? Did you go to jail? You suffered for a great cause. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 7. Reasons for going to prison against heaven. You are listening at novel full.audio. This time, let alone Dean Tian. Su Bai also suddenly stood up. Grandpa is in prison. Did you suffer for a great cause? Both of these keywords are understandable to Su Bai. But when placed together, how can there be a strange feeling? And this was also said by Dean Tian. If Dean Tian weren't crazy, that means what he said is true. Su Bai's gaze towards the old man changed instantly. He couldn't help but look up and down at his own grandfather. Is the old man hiding so deep? As my own grandson, surprisingly, it hasn't been discovered in all these years. At this moment, Su Bai couldn't help but guess Su Huaisher's identity. Su Bai has been living with Su Huaisher in the suburbs of Beijing since childhood. It can be said that I grew up in this rural courtyard. Throughout, his grandfather Su Huaisher didn't show anything special. I usually take care of a few acres of land at home. Plant some vegetables without selling them for money, just eat them with your own family. As for the source of income, according to Su Huaisher himself, all of it comes from the savings left by Su Bai's parents after their death. Su Huaisher himself does not have a pension. In his words, he's just a useless old man now. But now it seems that the old man has clearly hidden a lot of things. Su Bai couldn't help but sigh. As soon as he entered the door, seeing the attitude of Dean Tian and the military towards the old man. You should have noticed it. Where would a leader come to visit a house, the principle of leaders standing and parents sitting? And those two officers, obviously coming for his grandfather. Dean Tian doesn't pay much attention. The expression cannot be said to be disdainful, it can only be said to be a faint alienation. This sense of alienation is actually very familiar to Su Bai. In the previous world, after entering the entertainment industry, he met many big shots. These big shots have this feeling on them. Very polite to everyone, but it makes everyone feel an invisible pressure. These two officers are no exception. But this sense of alienation is only reflected on Dean Tian's side. When they faced Su Huaisher, it's completely the behavior of the younger generation. Unfortunately, at that time, Su Bai firmly believed that Su Huaisher was just an ordinary old man. I didn't even care about the abnormality of a few people in the room. Now that I think about it, I suddenly realize. But for the statement that going to jail is to suffer for a great cause, it is a valuable one. Su Bai still has some confusion. He couldn't help but ask, Dean Tian, can you explain what happened to my grandfather's imprisonment? Dean Tian nodded and was about to speak. But it was interrupted by Su Huaisher. The old man said directly, Stinky kid. Your grandfather and I are in front of you. If you don't ask me, ask others. Can anyone else have a clear understanding of my imprisonment? Su Bai chuckled and sat down next to Su Huaisher. This person said, can you tell me why you're still sitting in prison with such a high value? The old man let out a soft snort, his expression somewhat proud. Slowly, he said, as I just said, can I sit in the same prison as others? Being imprisoned does indeed affect future generations' ability to serve in the military, but it depends on who is imprisoned. I was born in 1929 and was only 16 years old when I was imprisoned. At that time, the country had not yet been established, and as for the reason for imprisonment, Su Huaisher said, glanced at Su Bai, and played a trick. Su Bai's appetite was really aroused. Baba looked at the old man, waiting for the following text. Su Huaisher was very satisfied with his grandson's appearance. Continuing, the reason why I was imprisoned was to provide us with intelligence to resist the Japanese pirates and enemy forces. Provide us with intelligence, resist Japanese and enemy forces. Su Bai reflected in her mind for a while, only then did I understand the significant meaning of this word. He looked at his own grandfather with admiration on his face. Nyobi, old man. You used to be in the enemy's prison. Your reason for being imprisoned is simply gilded. No wonder Dean Tian would say, even if the old man doesn't go to jail, it doesn't affect the Su Bai exam. The reason for going to jail is just a perfect addition to the list. When most people hear it, they will have a deep respect. This is not imprisonment, it's clearly a military merit badge. It is still the official military merit badge that has been recorded and entered into the archives. Dean Tian also sighed on the side. That's why we said that the old man's imprisonment will not affect Su Bai's review. Even if you're in prison, this is still a patriotic prison. Upon hearing Dean Tian's words, Su Bai suddenly had a question. Listen to the meaning of his old man. The original files of the old man have been destroyed. The copies were also obtained by those online through illegal means. In theory, many people should not know the identity of the old man. I wouldn't know about the old man's imprisonment, it's so valuable. How did Dean Tian of Huaxia Theater know? At his age, he doesn't seem like an old friend of the old man. Su Bai couldn't help but ask this question. Dean Tian, how did you know the specific situation of my grandfather's imprisonment before the founding of the country? I saw the copy sent by the online whistleblower, but there were also many unclear areas. Especially when it comes to the year of imprisonment, it's completely unclear. There are only vague words from over 19 years old. Otherwise, if we could see clearly, the time was before the founding of the country, and there wouldn't be such a big trouble. Dean Tian smiled awkwardly. No direct answer to the question, but carefully looked to the side, sitting two silent soldiers. That meaning is absolutely clear. The news from Dean Tian comes from someone else. After Su Bai reacted, she instantly felt extremely scared. Even if the old man is in the enemy's prison, he has made contributions to the country. Shouldn't all the military personnel be deployed, right? Is there anything inside that he doesn't know? After some thought, Su Bai couldn't help but look at Su Huaisher. I increasingly feel that this grandpa is not easy. Dean Tian is wary of the identities of these two officers. Not willing to say anything more. His purpose for bringing people to visit the house today, rather than saying it was for Su Bai's name, it's better to say that he came here to seek Su Huaisher's forgiveness. In fact, Dean Tian also has some grievances in his heart that he still cannot express. A great Buddha like Su Huaisher, unexpectedly living in seclusion in the village. Also allow one's own grandson to take the exam through formal channels. So is this Su Bai, where is the bad choice? I have to choose their Huaxia theater. Their theater is not a national unit either. It just sounds good and scary. Otherwise, as the dean, he would not personally come to apologize. Don't be fooled by the actors in the Huaxia theater. But units and people with a little bit of energy cannot afford to offend them. Now, it seems that everyone is happy. The admission of Su Bai is definitely not a problem. If Su Bai agrees to his proposed announcement plan, then this matter can be considered a perfect solution. Dean Tian tentatively asked, Comrade Su Bai, since the matter is already clear. I don't know what I just mentioned. Our theater will issue a notice. What do you think about explaining specifically about the old man's imprisonment? Su Bai thought for a moment and thought it was pretty good. After the unit explains, the online storm will disappear. He was also able to smoothly enter the Huaxia theater. The next step is to utilize the platform of Huaxia theater, build a team for yourself, it's good for filming. In the drama troupe, there are all good actors. There are many national treasure level actors and actresses inside. These people are within the unit, and Su Bai, as a member of the same unit, near the water, the tower first receives the moon. Su Bai was about to nod and agree with Dean Tian's proposal. But Su Huaixer snorted coldly and said, bullying my grandson, that's all for now. Do you think my Su family is easy to bully? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 8. Small Town Swot vs National Star. You are listening at novel full.audio. Do you think my Su family is easy to bully? Su Huaixer's powerful words came out. Everyone present was shocked. Two officers who were originally sitting stood up directly. Chi looks at Dean Tian. Dean Tian's forehead was sweating more. It's like rain. Su Bai was also shocked by her grandfather's aura. Why didn't he notice before? Does the old man still have such a domineering side? Su Bai remembers that someone in the village secretly occupied the old man's land. The old man keeps one eye open and the other closed. Not to mention, after so many years, the firewood and eggs that were taken away by others. The old man knew it, but he chose to remain silent. Su Bai always felt that his old man was a gentle person. If you can avoid offending others, then you won't offend them. But today, why did you suddenly hold on to the issue of this report and not let it go? Seeing a slight silence in the room, Dean Tian dared not speak. Su Bai whispered, Grandpa, it's actually some people online who don't know the truth. They followed suit and said a few words. As long as Dean Tian explains, this matter will be considered over. Who knew? Su Huaixer sneered. He glanced at Su Bai, his eyes very resilient. Su Huaixer said slowly, Su Bai, online netizens, of course I won't investigate. I also understand the internet, old man. There are many people who follow the crowd. Many people have no independent opinions and are influenced by others' opinions. So, I'm not talking about those netizens who participated in online bullying. But rather the person who initiated the cyberbullying. Speaking, Su Huaixer looked at Dean Tian. Dean Tian, when Su Bai handed me her phone just now. Besides seeing that picture, I also skimmed through this topic. It is filled with a large number of netizens with similar names and avatars. What's going on? I didn't wait for Dean Tian to explain. Su Bai said first, Grandpa. I'm familiar with this matter. Those with similar names and avatars are usually fans of celebrities. The second place winner this time, Yi Qianxi, is a very famous idol artist. He also passed the entrance examination for the establishment of the National Theater. Su Huaixer nodded, his face getting colder and colder. Looking at Dean Tian, he continued, Dean Tian, have you read the comments of this artist's fans? Dean Tian wiped a sweat and shook his head, saying that he hadn't paid much attention yet. Su Huaisher said, these people are not just cyberbullying Su Bai. I also saw insults towards other editors in their speeches. Especially when I see the name of small.town Swot. Dean Tian feels very unfamiliar with this title. Su Bai understood what this meant. He just didn't expect his old man to mind this word so much. Su Huaisher said, I just want to ask, why do these people use such vocabulary to mock those ambitious young people? Just because they were born into poverty and came out of small towns and villages. Also, because they tried their best and only wanted to get a good job and change their destiny. Let's say that the cornerstone of the establishment of this country is not all small.town Swot. Some people don't even count as problem solvers, they are just ordinary people. How many years have passed since the good days, when a sharp knife can stab the hard-working masses? Dean Tian turned pale upon hearing this. Immediately, he also showed reverence towards Su Huaisher. This old man is really amazing. I immediately grasped the key point of the matter. And this hat is fastened too precisely. If nothing else is said, the small.town Swot can set off a storm of public opinion. In this world, ultimately, there are many people at the bottom. They are too easy to empathize with people of the same birth. The comments of Yi Qianxi's fans are equivalent to offending all of this group. Negated all their efforts. Dean Tian also figured it out. Su Huaisher was very concerned about this matter and had no intention of letting it go like this. He also felt a bit dazed for a moment. I don't know how to do it, only then can Su Huaisher be satisfied. At this moment, Su Huaisher was seen looking at the officer who had been silent to the side. Xiao Zhang, can you clarify the matter of my file copy? Xiao Zhang immediately stood up and saluted. Then he said, old man, you can check. We'll have the results today. And Su Huaisher nodded, gesturing for him to continue speaking. Xiao Zhang then said, moreover, when we come, we will also have a rough understanding. Huaxia Theater should have received a few more complaints, right? Upon hearing this, Dean Tian was somewhat confused. Without knowing why, he said, Colonel Zhang, what is this complaint you're referring to? I haven't heard of it before. Su Bai raised her eyebrows. I couldn't help but look at Xiao Zhang's shoulder badge. So this is a lieutenant colonel. A lieutenant colonel in his 30s. You're too young, right? Xiao Zhang said, Dean Tian shouldn't ask me this question. I should ask your internal staff. At this moment, a staff member accompanying Dean Tian spoke in a low voice. Dean Tian. I know about the complaint. Dean Tian is dumbfounded. Did Huaxia Theater really receive a complaint? Why hasn't he heard any news? Dean Tian quickly asked, Wang Bo, can you tell me what's going on? Wang Bo whispered, Dean Tian, there are many people applying to our Huaxia Theater this time, and our theater usually has 2 rounds of interviews. 1 round online, 1 round offline. But many candidates complained that they did not receive notification of the offline interview. There are also joint complaints from candidates who have not seen Yi Qianxi during offline interviews and test centers. Dean Tian was shocked when he heard this. Countless information flashed through my mind. At this moment, he doesn't even know that there's a big problem going on here, then he is really lacking in foolishness. The first notification is not a big problem. Because those who failed the online interview, I will not receive any further offline interview notifications. Many candidates do not know, so they may have doubts. But the second question is intriguing. The offline interview at Huaxia Theater has a dedicated examination center. The candidates are evenly distributed among these examination points. But the candidates from several exam centers united and all said they had never met Yi Qianxi. Does this mean that Yi Qianxi has never participated in the second round of interviews? His hiring process doesn't follow the rules. Dean Tian's cold sweat soaked his back. Su Bai is a layman, and even if Su Huaisher's identity is extraordinary, but if there is a problem, he can still negotiate privately, because the attention is not high. K Millennium is different. He is a top-tier idol with extremely high national popularity. In addition, his fans satirized all the examinees with the small-town Swot, which angered everyone. A little problem can ignite public opinion. Dean Tian angrily said, "Wang Bo, why hasn't anyone reported such an important matter to me?" Wang Bo pushed his glasses and awkwardly said, "Dean Tian, Vice Dean Zhang is responsible for this. He said he will handle this matter and doesn't need to report to other leaders." After listening, Dean Tian's blood surged and he was extremely angry. Slowly, calm down and ponder. In the end, even the anger on his face disappeared. Su Huaisher remained silent. Take a panoramic view of the changes in Dean Tian's expression. At this moment, he said, "Dean Tian, I think it's better not to post your announcement for now. You have more important things to deal with." Dean Tian nodded and a smile appeared on his face. "What you said, old man. Since we have learned the formal procedures for the entrance examination in our theater, we still need to follow the regulations. Otherwise, transitioning to social recruitment halfway through would be like a tiger's head and snake's tail. Whether it is a small-town Swot or a national star, they are treated equally. If anyone doesn't follow the rules, they will definitely have to pay a price." Su Huaisher chuckled. Dean Tian didn't stop for a moment and exchanged a few pleasantries. Leaving with people. There are only Su Bai and his grandson left in the room. And that Colonel Zhang and his comrades in arms. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 9. One of the 5 military giants. You are listening at novel full.audio. As Dean Tian led the people away, the room suddenly became much cleaner. Colonel Zhang just started speaking. "Grandpa Su, you've been too low-key these years. After the war ended, you almost disappeared, and my grandfather had been looking for you for a long time. A few years ago, I heard the old man talking about it. I'm afraid I won't be able to see you before I die." Upon hearing these words, Su Huaisher burst into laughter. "Your grandfather really looks up to me too. I'm so much older than him. I'm already in my 90s this year, and he never thought, I'm already dead." With a firm tone, he said, "The old man said, Grandpa Su, you are not an ordinary person. He's dead, you probably still alive. Your body bones are unmatched by ordinary people." Su Bai listened on the side in astonishment. Does his old man have an average physique? But just thinking about it, which elderly person is in their 90s, not only are your eyes not cloudy, but you can also work on the ground. There is no difference in movement, sitting, and lying compared to young people. Su Bai originally thought that the old man was in good health. Now look, there's something fishy in here. Faced with Colonel Zhang's compliments, Su Huaisher just smiled faintly. "I didn't say much. Just changing the topic and saying, are my old friends still there?" Colonel Zhang replied, "Not much anymore. Those who used to follow Grandpa Su have been walking around for almost all these years. My grandfather is lucky to have been taken by you before. So he's in good health and hasn't been injured. But I just hope to see you again." Speaking of which, Colonel Zhang looked at the young people around him. Introduction. Grandpa Su, this is the youngest grandson of Mr. Wang Guangli's family. His name is Wang Chaosu. Mr. Wang Guangli, do you still remember? The young man immediately straightened his waist, salute to Su Huaisher. After thinking for a long time, Su Huaisher said, "I remember. When Wang Guangli followed me, he was quite chubby. But on that expedition, he was so thin that he lost his face. When I held him in my arms, I felt like he only weighed 40 or 50 pounds. Tears flashed in Wang Chaosu's eyes. Grandpa Su, my grandfather left 10 years ago, he choked up and said, when I was about to leave, I still remembered you. Upon hearing the news of the passing of an old friend, a touch flashed in Su Huaisher's eyes. But it quickly calmed down. It's not easy for us people to survive, he sighed, at least I have witnessed this country gradually becoming stronger. Your grandfather is a good soldier. Upon hearing Su Huaisher's evaluation, Wang Chaosu stood up. I bowed respectfully. Grandpa Su, if my grandfather could hear you say this. I'm afraid I'll just close my eyes when I die. Because mentioning the deceased, the scene was a bit sad for a moment. Su Huaisher recalled, they were my friends and also my comrades in arms. We have fought side by side too many times, we are friends of life and death. Subai was surprised, did his old man even go to the battlefield? But thinking about it is also right, the charge of the old man being imprisoned is to provide intelligence to our side. Before and after the founding of the country, there were many wars. At this moment, Su Huaisher asked again. Zishan, I heard that your father was promoted. Zhang Zishan nodded. Yes, Grandpa Su. After reorganization, he became the commander of the north. I came this time to invite you back to the army. Su Bai was still cutting apples. I almost cut my own hand upon hearing this. What level is Zhang Zishan's father? Commander of the North. This is not the giant in the military today. Such a person, specifically sending their own son, come and invite his old man to the army. Su Bai feels like everything is spinning around. This information is even more thrilling than his travels. But what's even more exciting is still ahead. Su Huaisher said, I know what your father wants me to do back home. But I'm getting old and my bones are not as strong as before. I can't compare to you young people. I won't embarrass myself. Su Huaisher said and patted Su Bai's shoulder. However, my grandson is good and has skills. Let him represent me and go back to the army with you to take a look. Upon hearing this, Su Bai suddenly stood up. I can't believe my ears. Su Bai's grandfather has started boasting again. You're still blowing so much. So exaggerated. At this moment, I heard Su Huaisher boasting about Zhang Zishan and Dynasty Su. Everyone looks at Su Bai. There is joy and excitement in the eyes, there's even a kind of eagerness to try. Su Bai understood at a glance, these two people became interested in the old man because of his words. Su Bai glanced at Zhang Zishan's bulging muscles. This is a tough guy. Wang Chaosu is even more exaggerated. We have started to look up and down at Su Bai, fingers pinching with a clattering sound. Su Bai feels a tingling sensation on her scalp. Hurry up and look at Lao Su, Grandpa. I work in literature and art, but going to the military doesn't match me. Upon hearing these words, Zhang Zishan thought that Su Bai was being humble. He said, Brother Su Bai, don't be humble. You must have obtained Grandpa Su's true biography, you don't appreciate our abilities. But my brother tells you, our abilities are not bad either. If you could come and guide us. The young men in the army must have gone crazy with joy. I'm going crazy. Su Huaisher's expression was faint. Ignoring Su Bai's words. Looking at Zhang Zishan, he said, Zishan, you are all young people. It's good for you to take Su Bai to the army for a long experience. But it was agreed first, my grandson, I won't enlist. Zhang Zishan replied, Old man, I remember your request and I will definitely meet it. We chatted for a while again. The two stood up to bid farewell. Before leaving, Zhang Zishan sincerely said, Grandpa Su, I will handle the matter of Su Bai's online bullying. Don't worry, don't worry. And our old man really wants to meet you. When would be convenient for you to see? After thinking for a moment, Su Huaisher said, Wait a little longer. Your grandfather is in good health, and I won't be able to die for a while. Wait a little longer. Su Huaisher waved his hand, gesturing for Su Bai to send the two out. At the entrance of the small courtyard, facing Zhang Zishan, who was still immersed in excitement, Su Bai asked, Brother Zhang, have you already discovered a lot about online bullying? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 10. Is just an actor, what kind of thing is it? You are listening at novel full.audio. Speaking of this, Zhang Zishan immediately restrained his mind. Actually, you've guessed a lot about the complaint I mentioned earlier, haven't you? Said earnestly Su Bai nodded. Dean Tian's reaction just now is very intriguing. A copy of the old man's file, it should be operated by another vice dean. Zhang Zishan chuckled and said, that celebrity named Yi Qianxi did not participate in the second round of interviews. So, it's not that your review can't pass. But his hiring is fundamentally non-compliant. Su Bai was taken aback for a moment, then exclaimed in surprise, oh, he really hasn't gone yet. This courage is too great. Zhang Zishan shrugged his shoulders. It doesn't matter, he said, with the vice dean holding on to him, what is he afraid of? Besides, they consider themselves to be big stars. Interviewing with a group of ordinary candidates, how much does it cost? Drama theaters are not a national unit, they usually engage in social recruitment. If you take the written test and interview at your own company, you can be hired. But this time we have to learn from others' practices and accept everyone's supervision. Price drop. Su Bai is really angry and laughing. Don't take the exam if you think it's a drop in price. As the top tier, the money earned cannot be spent in one's lifetime. The abundance of social wealth itself is unimaginable. I still have to compete with ordinary people for this position. The contract establishment of Huaxia Theater was supported by a salary of 5,000 to 6,000 yuan. For people like Yi Qianxi, not even filling the gaps between teeth. He is purely trying to gild himself. This is the exam. Because the name of Huaxia Theater sounds quite intimidating. But for ordinary people, these 5,000 or 6,000 salary positions are not enough. But they were going to squeeze their heads to grab it. If Yi Qianxi participates in the interview according to the normal process, it's nothing. The most hateful thing is, he not only enjoyed the privilege, but also despised the small town Swot. Su Bai's expression grew colder and colder, my eyes are also sharp. Zhang Zishan saw the situation, Su Bai, didn't you care too much about this just now, he exclaimed in surprise, Dean Tian proposed to issue an announcement, but you still want to handle it coldly. Why is your attitude changing now? Has it changed? It cannot be said that it has changed. Just before, Su Bai thought the Su family was just ordinary people. People like Yi Qianxi, even if they don't follow the rules. It's also difficult for him to do something. But now it's different. The old man's attitude already speaks for itself. The old man clearly doesn't intend to just forget about it. Su Bai said, I can't say it has changed, I just can't stand it. Those candidates who go for interviews in the wind and rain, if they know someone is using their privileges. I should lament injustice in my heart. Since Yi Qianxi doesn't follow the rules, she will have to pay the price. Zhang Zishan laughed heartily. Su Bai, you're right. Just an actor, what is it? His so-called privileges are simply not worth considering. Bullying ordinary people with privileges is too low-level behavior. Su Bai nodded. He asked again, Brother Zhang, have you found out the identity of the netizen who reported it? Zhang Zishan smiled disdainfully. He, what netizen? It's from Yi Qianxi studio. His team has mastered a bunch of small accounts. I have found out the real names and addresses of these accounts. Speaking, Zhang Zishan's expression was somewhat indescribable. After looking at Su Bai, this just said, "It doesn't matter at first glance." I found that this kind of celebrity team marketing is really extreme. Those who splash dirty water on their opponents' homes are actually the team's rhythm in the end. Wearing a layer of online skin, doing dirty things. I never expected the entertainment industry to be so dirty. Su Bai didn't say anything either. In fact, the entertainment industry is like this. The accounts investigated by Zhang Zishan are just the tip of the iceberg. He comes from a military family and does things straightforwardly. Seeing such dirty methods in the entertainment industry, it's inevitable to feel inferior nausea. However, through Zhang Zishan's investigation, the matter has become clear and understandable. Su Bai was purely targeted by the Yi Qianqi team this time. Defamation with a clear purpose. For the first place winner. Zhang Zishan said at this moment, the vice dean who opened the door for Yi Qianqi is probably going to be investigated soon. He not only violated the procedures for hiring personnel, but also concealed the candidate's complaints. This plot is already bad enough. I'm afraid Yi Qianqi's staffing is gone. Maybe it's better to hold him accountable for colluding with the vice dean. Su Bai nodded and asked again. Can the leaders of a state-owned theater operating unit still be investigated? In Su Bai's impression, ordinary companies and enterprises do not accept investigations within the system. Zhang Zishan said, if he's recruited from society, who cares about him? I insist on learning this formal process and not following the rules. Making such a big fuss has affected the public interest. We need to investigate him. Of course we can. That's how Su Bai understood, it's just that the impact is too great. This situation can be considered as having bad consequences. However, Su Bai felt that, not enough. This kind of thing emphasizes a tooth for tooth and an eye for an eye. If you do something wrong, there should be punishment. What Su Bai experienced, Yi Qianqi also needs to go through it again. This is what fairness is. Su Bai smiled and said, Brother Zhang, do me a favor. What do you want to do? Su Bai said, actually, it's nothing. Just help me contact these candidates who reported Yi Qianqi. Tell them to continue complaining online and promote a wave of popularity. Let them seize the small.town Swot and keep the offline interview video. Zhang Zishan's eyes lit up. I immediately understood the meaning of Su Bai. This is not intended to give the Huaxia theater a chance. Let them handle Yi Qianqi's illegal employment with cold hands. Guide online public opinion. Who wouldn't be the same? Give Yi Qianqi the same set of meals. It depends on whether he can withstand it. Let the bullets fly for a while. After finishing these words, Zhang Zishan said again, Brother Su Bai, I will come to pick you up tomorrow. Returning to the army is like going home, don't be nervous. Su Bai had no choice but to nod and agree. He can already foresee, these two brave soldiers in the army are going back to boast about themselves. Returning to the room, I saw Su Huaisher looking at his phone. Holding a magnifying glass in one hand and swiping down with the other. Su Bai gets angry when she sees his old man. Grandpa, why did you let me go to the army? Don't you know that the army is full of fierce people? I'm going like this, won't I embarrass you? What Su Bai said is all facts. He's really not humble. His body and bones are just ordinary people. 1-on-1, 1 on a dozen adult males, 5 to 5. We still need to see if the other person is a 2-meter strong man, weighing around 200 pounds. If 2 or 3 people surround him, Su Bai only gets beaten. The old man put down his magnifying glass at this moment. Calm down. Kid, since I let you go, it means you definitely have no problem. I am your own grandfather, can I deceive you? Seeing the old man so calm yet unable to explain clearly. Su Bai is also helpless. I always feel like the old man is holding a big secret, but it just doesn't matter. Grandpa, are you really sure that I am qualified to go to this unit? Su Huaisher turned his head and glanced at Su Bai. Haha laughed, filled with pride. Of course. You're from the Su family. This okay? The Su family is amazing. At this moment, Su Huaisher said again, are you outside? What did you say to the kid from the Zhang family? Su Bai knew he couldn't hide from the old man. Then he recounted what he wanted to do to Yi Qianxi. After listening, the old man gave Su Bai a deep glance. Just now, when Dean Tian was here, you kept giving in. I thought you were going to be kind to people again. Now look, you didn't disappoint me, kid. With me around, you don't need to restrain your sharpness. Our old Su family doesn't need you to be careful either. Your grandfather and I can still be your support. Su Bai smiled and felt quite good. Having privileges is completely different from not having privileges. Since the old man has such a background, why should Su Bai keep a low profile? Su Huaisher was living recklessly. The old man acted with a sense of openness and closure. Even if you hit a snake, you can hit 7 inches. In just a few words, it made Dean Tian feel like a formidable enemy. Su Huaisher, in this matter, I didn't mean to easily let go of my opponent either. Su Bai is just trying something even harder. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.